Hey, what's going on, everyone? Thanks for coming in to watch this little video. Right, so today in this episode, if you want to call it, or video, short video, whatever, I want to talk about the whole idea of, can you complete life through music, right? Can you complete life through music? Now, okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to quickly just have the supposition that, for example, there might be other lives, right? And I know this might cut a bunch of people out straight, but that's all right, that's fine. But anyway, the supposition is that there might be other lives, past lives and future lives and whatnot. And I started thinking about the subject when I was driving the car, and I was driving along, and basically I was just kind of sitting there, and I was like thinking to myself, I kind of had envisioned this kind of like a structure of like a man, almost a kind of like brick-like a grid, right? And I kind of thought, is life like a game, in the sense that, especially coming from the kind of more musical standpoint, we are driven by things like emotion, you know, the richness of emotion and how it kind of like adds on into our inner life. And I was thinking to myself, like, I kind of saw like each box in the structure of this kind of man is like a different type of emotion, like, you know, happiness, sadness, you know, erotic sexiness, all these different types of kind of like, you know, emotions kind of fill these boxes. And then I thought, and obviously you might have some smaller boxes more for like the kind of the side quests, you know, the more nuanced emotions, which some people might actually go through life never experiencing. Hey guys, so I'm just jumping in quickly because as I edit the video, I just realized that I didn't solidify the point that the whole your body being a kind of a structure or a grid, and it's being filled slowly with each emotion. The whole idea I meant was you complete each section as you go through life, you know what I mean? It's almost like a game, you know, once you complete a level, e.g. like a box, you know, oh, fear, that's done, you know, love, that's done, happiness, that's done, sadness, that's done. So each box is almost like a level. So that's the whole point of the body being a kind of a grid analogy. Anyway, back to the main video. And I thought to myself, like, coming, you know, from my own kind of standpoint, you know, if you're making a music with a certain kind of emotion, it gets to a point where you think like, it gets to a point where it's like, I've done that, that's done. And I don't, you know, there's nothing really more gain to, say, for example, make loads of sad music. You know, it gets to a point where you've done the sad music, it's done, you've felt that emotion, you've really fleshed it out, you've been in situations which evoked it, or maybe even just created it, and it kind of manifested certain situations in your life which mirrored back to you the music you're creating. But it gets to a point where you're done, and then you're going to move on to something else, and you're going to maybe explore something else, and that is what I believe is artistic growth. So in a way, the artist is kind of, I feel, is interfacing with life in a way where you're doing your art or your music or whatever, and it's eliciting these certain emotions which really give you just a better understanding of your place in the world. But when it gets to a point where you've done everything, you've felt everything, you've had all these nuanced experiences, gone down every nook, cranny and crevice, what else is there? You know, have you completed life? You know, and what I'll be doing a little diagram in a second, so stick around for that, and we'll give a bit more, maybe more of a visual context of what I mean. But I do think it can get to a point where it's like, once you've kind of done it, your soul is complete. And obviously, now this is where we're obviously going to get a bit esoteric, and it might lose some people. If there is such thing as past lives and future lives and whatnot, maybe as the artist, your purpose is to go into each life and experience that richness of emotions which builds your soul. And I remember why I'm thinking this is because I remember hearing something quite interesting about how music does build your soul. It is doing that activity builds your soul. It's not complicated. It's not something which needs to be kind of really, you know, cut up and analysed. That's just the statement. The music builds your soul, right? So by that definition, the more experiences you've had, like the more experiences you've had in life, for a start, will build your character. And if you're an artist, you know, you will kind of gain inspiration from that, and you will create kind of a music which mirrors those experiences. But at the same time, maybe if you have a rich imagination, you can create that music which kind of tells a story in your mind And you can actually feel those kind of experiences without really even going out and experiencing them in quote unquote real life. And I think that kind of explains in a way why a lot of like composers can just, you know, who are just madly introverted, and they can just spend years and years of their life just in the studio, you know, because in the end, they're going by their inner life. And it's almost like they're just creating these kind of emotions within themselves, you know what I mean? And it's like you're kind of interfacing through life just in your little room or your studio or whatever, just doing your thing. You're not necessarily going out there and falling in love and going on adventures and all that. And obviously those can be very amazing stimulants for inspiration. But I think what kind of sets kind of musical people, artistic people from people who don't do it is, in a way, we can actually, like the energy comes from within us, you know, like that's like the classic introvert, isn't it? You're creating the energy from within you. You're not getting it from the outside environment. So in a way, you're creating a world within you, and you can feel all sorts of emotions just from your creations. So anyway, so what I'm trying to say is, can you complete life through music? So if you've been up in the studio and you're creating all these amazing chord structures and sequences, and you're going like trying out all sorts of different genres, you know, really going into all these kind of like subtle nuances of emotion through different, like merging different kind of feelings and stuff. It really might just get to a point where it's like, what is next? You get me? Anyway, so yeah, I started thinking a lot about that, and especially pertaining to stuff like past lives and all that, because if you've seen a couple of videos ago, I did have I visited a tarot lady, and it was quite a profound meeting. But then a couple of days after that, I visited another lady who started doing this kind of past life stuff with me, and she kind of like, oh man, I'm not gonna go into it in this video because it's a little bit deep. And yeah, she told me a lot of stuff about myself and how it could also be manifesting problems in my current life. And I know it sounds nuts, and that's fine, but it is interesting to me, and I think that kind of really gave me some ideas. And the whole idea of, you know, reincarnation and all these things, this is not new. You know, these ideas have been around for thousands of years, like since the time of the pagans and stuff. So I don't think that's too much of a Looney Tunes kind of concept. But anyway, so yeah, if you find that interesting, that's the whole idea of completing life through music and unlocking the codes within yourself through the maths of music. You know, see my previous video when I was talking about that. Maybe that's all you need. Maybe that's all you need just to complete your life. And obviously the Buddhists talk about nirvana. You know, you exit the wheel of reincarnation, and maybe you just enter nirvana. But yeah, this is just more philosophy, and we're just playing around with some ideas here. I'm not saying I fully believe any of it or don't believe it, but it's just these are some ideas which have been coming to my head. Anyway, I'm going to try and give you an example in a more of a tangible form of what I mean. So, right. Hey guys, all right, so here's my little drawing example, and this is based around the DJ and producer DJ Crush. Now, this is a guy I have a lot of respect for, and you know, I grew up listening to a lot of his music. And when I was younger, and even to a little bit this day, and I think the interesting thing about DJ Crush is this guy has been making, like, you know, just dark music since the beginning of his career, really, up until now. I mean, I think now it's a little bit more slightly softer, and there's got some more ambient kind of like almost like neutral, kind of like atmospherics and pads and whatnot. But generally, he's been pretty dark from the beginning. Now, what I find interesting for a start is how an artist can be that consistent. I mean, I've been jumping around different kind of genres and styles, and it's possibly because I have a kind of, as a tarot lady said to me, an ungrounded energy, or like my energy is not kind of focused, which could be absolutely true. But with my guy here, DJ Crush, right? So when we're talking about like completing life, let's go to, say for example, this aspect of him. Now, this is not meant to be like an auric field or anything. This is just more of a kind of a metaphor, I guess you could say. Now, let's say through kind of his explorations into the dark side, he's cultivating this kind of aspect of his soul, right? So we're here, and he's just, hang on, more opacity. He's here. This is over the years, right? This is over the years that he's doing this. And again, this is just more to kind of make my point. I don't necessarily literally think dark music is kind of black or grey or whatever, but I don't know. So here he is, and actually in the beginning of his career, he also had a bit of a kind of a jazzy feel, maybe with the jazz, we're talking a little bit more kind of the purple. Bit of the jazz, but mainly the dark side stuff, right? Maybe there's obviously a bit of nuance to that as well. It's not all completely. Maybe we've got a bit of dark green here, you know? And I think, you know, at the end of the day, this guy is clearly about his dark music, and maybe this is just his kind of life purpose to really flesh this out. Now, maybe the time will come where in his next life, if you believe in next lives, again, this is just a bit of interesting thought. In his next life, he's meant to now complete these other styles, you get me? So maybe in the next life, he'll be like, I make ukulele music, you know, ukulele stock music and like EDM and pop, you know? So he comes back, and my dude is making the ukulele and EDM pop, and that's his next task in his next life. However, if you were to sit down and say, hey man, you know, like, we really need you to make just a dark track, you know, for X, Y, and Z reason, and he might be like, yeah, go on then, I can do that, because it's done. He's already done it. And I think that's why I find artists who are very versatile interesting, because it's like, you have that depth of emotion. You have that kind of rich inner world, and like, where did that come from? You know what I mean? Where did that come from? Did you experience things in your just this one life, which kind of which helped you kind of develop this kind of ability to express yourself in such a way, or did you have different lives? You know, I don't think this is too crazy. I don't think this is too crazy. Come on. You know, some people are just so talented, and it's like, come on, man, where did that come from? So yeah, maybe this is the kind of the EDM pop stuff that he's doing now in his current life, or in his next life, sorry. You know. And that in itself has a kind of a nuance of emotion in between it as well, you know. So now, let's say we go on many lives now into the future, right? And tell you what. So now let's just rub this out, because we're not applying this to DJ Crush now as such. This is just more general. Okay, so now say you've gone to live many lives and cultivate your soul through many lives. You've had all sorts of experiences, gone through all sorts of kind of emotions, and you've really just kind of experienced every aspect of life in the emotional sense. And I'm just going to speed this up now. Anyway, right, so here we are. This is an example of, say, perhaps a musician who's cultivated their soul over many lives. And look, they are a balanced, nuanced individual. They're not super angry or super happy or whatever. They are a mixture of all sorts. And as you see, what I'm trying to demonstrate here is there's not like one bold color where it's just, I am just this. It's the subtlety and the nuance of all the kind of the emotions they felt and the rich inner life they have built is found in all the blending. You know what I mean? So, and I think this is I think in the end, this is kind of symbolic of someone who is just very, very worldly and rounded. You know, they've had all the experiences, and there you are. Maybe now they're ready to just leave and wave goodbye. He's done it. He's completed maybe life, perhaps through music. And maybe this was all done through music and not simply worldly experiences, but maybe this guy here, he sat in his studio and he simply made all the genres and he explored all the feelings that he wanted, and he cultivated this within himself, and he's done. So yeah, I don't know. Let me know what you think. If anything, just take this away as some kind of abstract thought. If you think the idea of like different lives is a bit out there, but I'm really interested to hear what you think. And obviously, if you have any contributions or want to expand on this idea, please feel free to do so in the comments, and I would love to hear from you. All right, this is Aleks Ozols signing out, and I will speak to you soon. Bye.